Hello everyone and welcome back to Grow Leafy. Today I'm getting ready to start some seeds, and particularly my tomato seeds, and I'm starting them in my new pots that I just got, these new seed cells that I just recently got. I'm going to add in the link of where I purchased them. I'm excited to use them because they're just such durable material. And so I've got a couple of things that I need to get started here. Like I mentioned, I've got tomatoes that I've got to get started. I have a moringa plant that I need to up pot. And actually there's two of them. That's a bigger one that I started much earlier. And then there's this little one. And then I also have some eggplant as well. But I'm going to show you just some sampling of how I'm going to be starting these seeds. These are all warm loving plants. And so I will not be putting them outside. These will be started indoors, and I will tell you why in just a second. So the reason why I start these seeds indoors is because they are not ready for outside. So your plants like your cold hardy plants, which would be more like your brassicas, which would be, for example, like broccoli, kale, Swiss chard, lettuce, any of those leafy greens, have a very good time starting outside right now. They would thrive, do well, even kohlrabi. But once you start getting into these warm loving plants like your sweet potatoes and your peppers and your tomatoes and even this moringa tree, it's actually a tree, but I'm growing it for the leaves because I want to harvest the leaves and make tea. And even the eggplant, those are warm loving and they do not want to be outside right now because they would not survive, because I have not approached yet my last frost date. My last frost date is in mid-April. And so even when I come up to that date, I'm still going to hesitate with putting them outside because in my growing zone here in Kentucky, there's still possibilities of cold snaps coming by and the temperature is dropping very low. So even if it's warm in the daytime, you want to make sure that even at nighttime, that it's not dropping low into the 30s or even in the 40s, because these plants like warm temperatures. So you don't want to just look at the day, but you also want to look at the evening, nights as well, and the temperature, making sure that it stays warm so these plants can thrive and survive. So I need to get them started, and I'm getting them started indoors. And so I know you can't really see my lights. They're not on right now because my plants are sleeping right now. And so that's why the lights are off. But there's one that's on. I just turned it on just to have it on, but the rest of them are sleeping. But I've got LED grow lights, and I will link the description for these grow lights as well. And you want to keep them about this close to the top of the seed cell, okay? So maybe like a right about here. You want to keep them fairly close. And in mine, by the time I have that, it will probably be like a right around here. That way, when they start to sprout, they're not stretching, but you want to keep them pretty close. So anyways, let's get this started. Oh, and one other thing that I do need to start as well, which I didn't mention, were some dun peas as well. Now, dun peas, sugar snap peas, that kind of thing. These seeds, actually, they are more of the cold hardy. They will do well with light frost. It really won't hurt it that much, but I'm going to do a couple of ways. I am starting some of those indoors, and then I'm starting some of those outdoors as well. And then that way it will give me an opportunity of succession planting anyways, because if these grow fairly quickly, the outdoor ones, it's taking a little bit longer, then at least I have my plants growing at different times. And so I can harvest throughout the season until it's time to pull the plants. But let's get started because I need to get these plants going for the season. We're going to do this as quickly as possible because it's a lot of different varieties that I have going on, but I already have my seed starting mix ready to go. And just check out this video if you want to see how I made my seed starting mix. And I have it already moisturized with some water. So if I were to squeeze it, you know, it'd be lightly moistened. So we're going to get started with the dun peas first. The dun peas have not been soaked or anything like that. You could do that, soak it in water, but I don't normally soak my dun peas. I don't feel like I really have to do that. They'll germinate really well, but I haven't felt like I had to do that. When I grow dump peas with microgreens, I don't do that. And so I figured, well, if I'm starting it for my outdoor garden, what's the difference? But if you do want a quicker rate of germination, you could soak them. It's really no problem doing it. I just didn't do it. Maybe if I had thought about it, maybe I would do that, but they grow pretty fast anyways. They go pretty fast, especially once they get started. They grow very, very, very fast. So I'm just filling them up like this, as you can see. Now, some of this, just for the sake of time in the video, so this doesn't end up being too long for you to watch, some of this I may just kind of like skip through, and so you'll see what it is that I had already done. But all that I'm doing is just taking it, scooping a bunch, and then pressing it in, okay? Just so that there's no air pockets inside of the actual seed cell. And as far as the watering schedule, when I water my seeds, I water them from the bottom up. But as I'm getting started with my cells, I spray and mix the top as well, just to ensure that that top of it, that the seeds are getting that moisturized they need. But the water will wick it all the way up to the top. So it's not necessarily necessary, but it's just something that I just tend to do just on that, you know, the first couple of times, these first days, few days, I'll just kind of like mist it on top the same way that I would if I were growing microgreens. But it's not a required thing. Next, what we're going to do is let's get to the tomatoes. So the tomatoes that I have is going to be Roma, Chadwick cherry tomatoes, so basically cherry tomatoes, and some currant tomatoes, which are super tiny. They're like so small, but they are so good. They taste like candy. And it's my first time growing with the Roma tomatoes. Now the Roma tomatoes are determinate tomatoes, so the other two are actually indeterminate. The difference between that is that the determinate, pretty much when the plant is fully mature and all the fruit have set, you're pretty much having your bulk of harvest all at the same time. Whereas with the indeterminate, it just keeps growing and growing and keep producing, I mean like producing and producing fruit continually throughout the growing season until you pretty much pull the plant out. So I've usually just dealt with the indeterminate, but this time I have a determinate. I want to give a shout out where shout out is due, to Next Level Gardening. So I was actually checking out that video. It just popped up on my page, and about, you know, starting tomatoes. And how I normally start tomatoes, I would fill it up to the top, and then I would just sow the seeds. And then once I take it out to the garden, I would take off a lot of the leaves that are, you know, that are lower and pretty, like, let me use this as an example. If there are leaves all down here and over here, I would take off a lot of it and just pinch them off and take it off, and then drop it into the soil very, very high, close to the leaves. So this whole stem would be inside the soil. That's how I would plant it. But when I was watching Next Level Gardening, he was suggesting that, you know, you can start it low inside here. And then tomato plants, as they always do, they grow really, really high, especially when you're starting them indoors. So they grow really high. And because that part on the stem just starts growing and growing and growing from that. And so what he's basically saying is that he fills it up to about here, because he uses a cup. You fill it out to about here, fill it up to there, sow it there. I'll have grow lights anyway. So even though this is surrounded by this container, it will still get sunlight inside there. Well, grow lights. And then once it grows, then we will backfill it and fill it in there so that that fresh new soil, and then they will start growing out in that soil. And so, and it's supposed to make the root system much stronger so that you have a very strong plant. Now, I have always had strong tomato plants. My tomato plants have done very well, set fruit. I haven't had any complaints about that. But I'm going to try this new strategy this time and see how that works. All right, so I'm going to partially fill that up. Push it down. It's almost like, if you were to think of it as if you were starting it in a 1.5 seed cell, like a little seed cell like this, right? Let's just say you're starting it in something like that, or something like this. And so instead of having to up pot it, which I often have to with my tomato plants if I started in anything smaller, I won't have to do that. All I have to do is backfill it, and it's fitting in this big container, and then this big container will be transplanted out to the garden. So hopefully it will save on that extra step, because I definitely didn't want to deal with up potting my tomato plants this time. Now for my eggplants, just going to fill that up. Now, eggplants is my first time planting eggplants, actually. We don't normally buy eggplants and eat them, so I'm not growing very many of it. But I am going to try and grow it just because I really liked the purple color. I thought that was really pretty. Purple is almost like my theme this year. I know purple has been a thing for gardeners. I asked that at the beginning of the year. I said, is purple a thing, or is it just me? Just because now I'm just realizing it. Because, you know, I've been a beginner gardener for all these previous years. And so I guess I just discovered the purple. So I'm adding purple, and I'll figure out some good recipes. So let me know some good recipes. I'm not too crazy about eggplant, but if you know of a good recipe that you know for sure I'll probably like, let me know. Because I'll have a plant now and I'll need a recipe to know how to cook it. And then these last two, these just need to be up potted, I mean. So let me do that after. So everything is filled. So you can see the tomatoes look like that. This is where the eggplant will go. And then these are for the dun peas. We're gonna up pot now. And so I can see there's roots. You can see the roots that are growing right through that, kind of. So just gonna carefully, oh, there it is. Look at that. See all the roots? Put that there. And now I'm just going to backfill that a little bit. So I'm just filling the soil all around it. I already put soil at the bottom of it. So the bottom already has some new soil in there, but I'm just going to backfill it here. If you leave it in a little pot or in a little seed cell for too long, then it becomes root bound. Root bound is when all those roots become tangled and so tight and so clustered together that you literally have to cut the roots apart, like cut them in order to separate them. And you don't want to have roots that are just so entangled with each other like that. They should be growing pretty much freely in there. But, you know, it's just, when it's root bound, it has lost the space that it needs to really just to grow out. So this plant will start growing even bigger and better because I've now given it some more space. So I will do the same thing with this little itty bitty one. Now I could just put it here, but we just know it's going to outgrow that. So I'm going to go ahead and up pot it into this container. Before I add the seeds, I'm going to go ahead and add water to the base and allow it to wick up. Like as I pour it in, I can see it going down. So it needed some water. And any extra water that you have, don't let your plant sit in it. Dump it out after it's finished wicking it all up. And I've got everything labeled as well. So these are the dun peas. And I will plant in extras, just to make sure that I do have good germination. I could put a third one and just thin it out. I'm putting two, hoping that it'll be fine and it will germinate. Casper, which is this one. These seeds are kind of small. I just need a little bit of a poke tool here. Now the next one is this purple one, the Rosita eggplant. I'm so used to sewing these closer to the top, so kind of have to get down in there. I know you can't really see this either, but I'm doing it the exact same way that I did the other ones. The tomato, I'm actually putting 3 down. So you can just see what I'm doing here. So this is cherry tomato. So all I'm doing is making 3 grooves right here. That is it. So I'm basically finished with sewing the seeds. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some kind of clear dome. Here's an example of one. This one is smaller, but I'm going to get a bigger one. I have a larger one, but I'm using it for something else. So I'm going to cover it, and that will just help to, you know, retain that moisture that's in there and just kind of create like the, almost like that greenhouse kind of effect. And then I'm going to dump whatever leftover water's in here, dump it out because I don't want that just sitting inside of here. And then the other thing is I'm going to set this on top of a heat mat, which will help with warming up this environment and with the dome, and then kind of give it like a nice warming place so that it has a better rate of germination rather than taking a little bit longer, because this can take 7 to 10 days to germinate. But that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. So I hope that this video was helpful. I'm just looking to see if there's anything that I left out to explain to you. But I'll have more videos for you. But I hope that this video was helpful. You got to see me plant. You got to see me up pot. And you got to see a couple of different things here. So I hope that it was helpful. But if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, go ahead and do that. If you're on one of my other platforms, go ahead and click the like and follow. Make sure that you join in this journey with me so that you can also learn how to garden, to grow, to eat your foods, and self-care. But remember to grow leafy, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.